Smart Energy 2025 is just around the corner. The annual renewables event of the year returns to Sydney on April 9 and 10. In the midst of a federal election focused on energy, be amongst key decision makers and 12,000 delegates to showcase your solutions, expand your network, and position your brand for growth. As the Smart Energy Council celebrates its 70th anniversary, there's no better place to be than at Smart Energy 2025. Visit smartenergyexpo.org.au for details.
Welcome back to Just Another Solar Podcast with Luke Beattie. That's me, Karl Jensen. G'day, Karl.
Luke, another crap day in Melbourne. The weather is gone again, sadly.
And all the way from Adelaide, we've got Jess MacPherson. G'day, Jess.
Beautiful sunshine on Adelaide's side of the border. We're, lapping up. Great days for solar over here.
It's going to be hard for you to top your news from last episode.
I know.
I think that's been the biggest feedback, isn't about the WA solar rebate, isn't about CSIP. It's been about your engagement.
It's very flattering. It's been very, very sweet with the people who've reached out to me. I really appreciate it.
And industry legend Nigel Morris. G'day,
G'day everyone. Great to be here again. Beautiful day here in Sydney. Feels a bit like the calm before the storm. Thinking of all my Queensland friends.
Very curiously, Energex sent out a notice to thousands of customers and people telling them that they need to turn off their solar systems. What are your thoughts, guys?
Definitely a good idea, Luke. So hypothetically, my solar system's running and some debris smashes a panel and then some water gets into that smashed panel and then it leaks to ground. As soon as it leaks to ground, the inverter's fried. All over, could be simply avoided by turning the inverter off while the storm passes, and then when the storm's gone, turn the thing back on. If it sees an earth fault, it won't start, and I can get someone out to fix it without wrecking my inverter.
Yeah, I'll just say, like, here in SA, when we had a pretty major statewide blackout it was actually over a year ago now, our singular interconnector they were doing maintenance during a storm. Anyway, the thing that meant that some parts of the states were out for like 8 days was that people's solar systems kept booting up and stopping people from working on the lines. And, it was like a really big issue. They ended up driving the frequency of the grid up in order to trigger the safety mechanisms to get everyone's solars to turn off. And I'm sure busting a few light bulbs in the process, but it's not the most elegant solution. So if people are responsible and on top of it and that sort of thing doesn't have to happen, it will be way better for your dryer and your fridge and your everything else as well.
Nige, not the only announcement. What's going on?
Lots. Victoria's blumbling along. Some more errors this week, some more systems offline, but it's working some of the time. Big changes with an announcement in WA where they have announced that they are going to introduce CSIP protocol later in the year. CSIP is Common Smart Inverter Protocol. It's what South Australia uses. It's what Victoria tries to use, and it's what Queensland sometimes uses. So also Endeavour Energy announced some fairly substantial pilot trial for their impending CSIP scheme as well. So we now have WA and New South Wales really ramping things up and getting going with CSIP. That's the shortest possible update I could give. How'd I do, Jess?
48 seconds. Not bad. Not bad.
So, Nigel, just on that, we know that South Australia's introduced some controls for EV chargers to manage loads as well.
Queensland as well, yes.
Oh, Queensland too. What do you reckon the chances are that sort of technology is going to be rolled out in the other states, and what's the best way to do it?
I think it's absolutely inevitable. I think the best way to do it is via CSIP. The CSIP allows you to use the same protocols and systems and servers, in fact, as you use for inverters and batteries to do the control of a load as well. That's exactly what they do in Queensland. It's quite straightforward. They have a complicated system up there, but it is the same CSIP protocol and provides, a nice nationally consistent protocol.
So would the CSIP thing talk to the OCPP thing, or how's that going to work?
More or less, yeah. The way that CSIP works is via OCPP. It can ramp the EVSE down or up depending on network demand in the same way it ramps the inverter up or down depending on network demand. Exactly the same principle.
Anyone would think people have thought about this, Nigel.
Yes.
At length.
That was a really simple answer from you, Nige. One word.
Oh, Jess is flashing her watch. I wish the viewers could see the screen. She's waving her arm at me.
It didn't really work how I wanted it to.
Now, guys, we're going to jump in today and deep dive on a topic that I need to announce. This is actually our 80th episode. In the 79 episodes before this, we haven't actually done a deep dive on the topic and with the guest that we're about to go into. So I'm going to introduce a guest, and then there's going to be another guest, and it's going to be a very interesting topic for us to cover off. Very, very relevant to where we're at as an industry at the moment. So today, we welcome Ray Szylko from Omnidian. Now, Ray is a co-founder and chief strategy officer, and he's come all the way from the USA, but apparently he said he used to study in Wollongong. He is an honorary local, as far as I'm concerned, but welcome to the podcast, Ray.
Thanks, Luke. And I'm actually dialing in from Perth, where it's a lovely 40 degrees today and sunny. So thanks so much for hosting me. Omnidian was fortunate. We launched in Australia 2 years ago. Why we came to Australia in the first place is we looked at it as a postcard from the future as we think about growing our business globally. And so we launched the company back in 2016 with the premise that people were not leveraging technology to identify issues and resolve issues. And I kind of think of it more as distributed energy. The name Omnidian kind of comes from two things. It's Latin for omnia, for all things, and then custodian. So we're the custodian of all your distributed energy assets. Our first focus point was on PV. We've expanded into storage, and now we're looking very closely into EV. And fundamentally, it comes down to there's fingerprints within the data that people do not recognize that tell you about the performance issues. And if you're proactive about the identification of the issue, then you could actually repair the issue faster or quicker before it actually becomes a problem. And it really changes the customer experience. Just imagine this. Hey, Luke, this is Ray from Omnidian. I'm managing your solar system. You have a problem. I'd like to come send somebody out. Versus how it traditionally has been, you get your energy bill, you're like, shit. What just the hell happened? I thought I had a solar system. And so now we totally changed the whole dynamics of what the customer experiences by leveraging technology to be proactive.
O&M, or operation and maintenance, is well known in the large scale space, but it hasn't been really spoken about in small scale. So talking about residential and smaller commercial systems. It's very interesting you bring it up. It's really O&M asset management. Who do you do this for? So you're speaking about the end customer, but who do you act on behalf of?
Yeah, so actually we like to use the term performance assurance. We are a category creator, and what we do is we make sure that we've maintained the performance of your system. And so O&M is a component piece. As we detect the problem with our technology, we first try to remotely resolve it, obviously to keep the cost low to the underlying client and customer. And I'll get to that question in a second, Luke. And then if it does not work, then we partner with a third-party field service provider who then goes and remediates it for it. So I'll break our customers down. I'd kind of put it into two very simplistic categories. We work with the OEMs. And so if you kind of think about for an OEM, they have to provide that technical asset management, whether it's for their installer partners or whether it's potentially for a homeowner or an client as well. And that actually becomes expensive for the OEMs. And so the OEMs look to have us effectively become their level 1, level 2, and potentially level 3 support by enabling our technology to monitor their assets and help them detect the problem. So OEMs is one segment, but then the second segment is the solar retailers. As the solar retailers, they're outgrowing their business, they're out finding a new customer, and for them to actually stand up a back office becomes expensive. And so we have poured tens of millions of dollars into our technology platform to help us be able to identify the issues and resolve the issues. And that just becomes a scale question that a lot of solar retailers just don't have the ability to put that type of resources into the platform to grow. Kind of back to the original premise of why we launched Omnidian, people just weren't leveraging technology. And if you put the investment in the technology to scale across a wide base of assets, you're able to draw or bring efficiency to the market.
I'll jump in there, Ray. 10 years ago, Luke and I went through a DC isolator recall with one of our customers, and they had nearly 1,000 systems to go back to and replace the isolators. And they said to us, we can't do this work. We need help. We need external provider to help. I didn't understand at the time, but if as a retailer you can't make sales, you can't make money, even if the manufacturer of those isolators is paying guys to do the work to swap them over. You effectively have no installers for a couple of months while you do that work, and that doesn't feed the salespeople and the rest of the business. So we've found out sort of 10 years ago that part of the industry hadn't even been considered until you came along. You said your business is 9 years old now, so obviously you thought about it too.
Yeah, you just nailed it because as we started in the US, I'll use a term that I'm sure we're all familiar here. It's all about the megawatts, right? How many new installs have you done? That's kind of what you're valued on, and that's where your money comes through. But if you think about whether it's growth for the existing solar retailer here in Australia, if you don't have a good end customer experience, you don't have a good brand experience, they're not going to come back to you. And so that's where we help empower our partners by effectively being that back office for them so they can go focus whether on new customer acquisition or on doing that new install.
Would it be a fair simplification to say that you're stepping in for OEMs and for solar retailers to be their tech support and after-sales service?
Exactly, yeah. So what we like to think of ourselves is oversimplifying it, post-installation customer service. That's what we do. I don't do anything on the front end on the installation. It's all on the back end after the system's been installed.
That makes a lot of sense for someone who's an expert to do that rather than someone who would ordinarily answer the phone at your business to make a sale and really doesn't have a huge amount of technical expertise to then bounce that back to a manufacturer, bounce that back to an installer, bounce that back to some sales guy or whatever. All of a sudden, there's a lot of bouncing around and not a lot of solutions.
100%. And even just breaking it down to one of the most simplest pieces, like if you're a solar retailer, up front, I have to go do an RMA. And just the pain involved in that for them. Like, we understand what the OEMs require. We work with them all the time. It is so easy for us to go ahead and process that.
Who doesn't love an RMA, right? God, I did one this morning. It's a horrible experience. I'm ringing you tomorrow, Ray. The thing that intrigues me, and I go off script a little bit with a question here because I think this kind of gets to the nub of it. As you know, Ray, we've chatted quite a lot, and I've really had a bit of a dig around with what you guys do, because I think it's an amazing service and there's a real gap for it in the market. And I remember digging around and realizing pretty quickly when I was chatting with a number of solar retailers that it's pretty common that you will find a decent sized solar retailer who's easily spending $100,000 or $200,000 even in a medium sized solar retailer on exactly what you do, picks. Right? All that post-install stuff, someone to do the service, someone to take the calls, someone to handle the RMA, right? Pretty quickly, any decent-sized solar business, you're spending $100,000 on a body, right? And some resources.
A minimum of one body, if not two, three, four, five, right?
Exactly. Let alone if you have, a disaster like we've got in Victoria where that admin workload goes through the roof. That's where the penny dropped for me on this, because you go, well, hang on, if there's a value that you can put on what you're currently spending and you can trade that off against what you guys obviously will charge something, and if there's other value that you bring or speed or, taking load off the business like Karl was talking about, then suddenly you start going, hang on, this is getting me excited. This is starting to work for me. Let me ask a difficult question. Perhaps maybe it's easy for you to answer. What I get is that in businesses that are of scale, they're going to quickly recognize the value here. They're going to get it very quickly, and they're going to have, very big support bills, and they're going to go, this makes tons of sense. Yeah, let's outsource this and we can scale back. How have you found the Australian market? Has it been different to the US market experience with the types of businesses we have here? We have a very disparate thing here. Has it led to you doing slightly different things here? You're talking a lot about OEMs, so I'm gathering that maybe that's where the niche is that you're going, actually, where maybe a bigger role for you guys rather than working with large solar retailers is to work with OEMs and build their support base.
Love that question, Nigel. And I may go a little off script with the answer, so direct me back as you'd like. The OEMs is one part that is different than how we do it in the US today. And back to my opening comment where we looked at Australia as being a postcard to the future. So that's a type of business that, given the Australian market and how competitive it is and the penetration rate that you have, far exceeds anything that we have in the US today. It looks a lot more like Europe. And so our aspirations are to be a global company. Australia was our first market. We are looking to enter Europe later this year. And a lot of what Australia represents is what we believe Europe will represent for us in terms of how you go to market. One of the key differences as you think about the US market that you don't really have as much in Australia is on the cost of the system. Given the cost is so expensive in the US relative to what it costs here in Australia, the financial community is very much involved in the US. And so there's the notion of lease and PPA, and that's a big component piece, which is not at all similar here. But we do have the solar retailer piece. In the US, we call them installers. And that part is very, very much similar. One of the unique differences that Australia represents that the US doesn't have, which is actually made it more of a value proposition for the solar retail to partner with us, is the notion of the whole system warranty, which is driven, whether it be the 5-year or the 10-year, and the requirement for that installer or the solar retailer to make sure that they abide by that. Probably, Nigel, now I'm going to take a step forward. As we got into Australia, it's kind of a chicken or an egg situation, right? As you get clients, you need field service. Clients want to see that you have field service. So yes, we've had some really nice organic growth, but we saw a huge opportunity, and this is one of the reasons why I'm in Australia right now, to actually partner with somebody. This may be a good opportunity, Luke, to introduce our next person on the podcast.
All right, Ray, I think you make a great host. Pass him back over to me as well. The next guest is a very interesting one. He's a very highly credentialed person in our industry, and a lot of you would be familiar with them. Peter Matthew is a managing director of the Solar Service Guys. He's also a director at the Solar Accreditation Australia and has been the president of Master Electricians Australia for a number of years now. So welcome to the podcast, Peter.
Hi all, thanks for having me on.
It almost seems overdue looking at all of your credentials and all of your roles and everything you've done, mate. So it's good to have you on today.
I try and hide in the shadows. My preference is to stay in the background and not be in the front of everyone, but really excited to be here today and talk about the exciting opportunity that's happening.
Another one of those episodes, Luke, where you get a bit of goosebumps because we're humbled by these people who have done amazing things in the background that we never really knew about.
So what's the announcement? Come on, let's hear about this. You've dropped us in it now. I want to know what's going on.
Well, as of today, we're happy to announce that Omnidian and SSG will partner together. So back to the point of there is the notion of, do you have field service or you have clients? Now with Omnidian and SSG in our long-term partnership, we now have all of that here in Australia. So I have all the trucks, I have all the technicians, I have a network, and we are bringing our technology to SSG. And so it's the notion of 1 + 1 gives you 3. So really excited. Now, Peter, you want to add anything more to that?
Look, and it also gives us the opportunity to expand and bring technology to our customers. I mean, for SSG, we visited over 17,000 sites last year alone doing service and maintenance. That's our core business.
Whoa, 17,000.
Yeah, 17,000 sites.
That's epic.
Yeah.
You have been hiding in the shadows, man. That's a story on its own.
We've got over 100 staff spread across 5 states in Australia, as well as a big subcontractor network. And so we support all the OEMs and the solar orphans, the customers that just can't get help. They end up calling us, and we're the ones that go out and fix their problems and try to turn them around and actually show them there are people in the industry that care about you and can help you through your journey. But now we've got the ability to leverage technology in that as well. And we all know the shortage of workforce. We all know the shortage of electricians. So we need to work smarter and more efficient. Leveraging technology gives us the ability to really make sure we're using electricians in the best way, not sending them to site to fix something that can be done remotely.
And maybe just adding a little piece of clarity, I reference this as a partnership because technically Omnidian has acquired SSG, but they are doing a part of the value chain that Omnidian has not done in the past. And so it's really, really important for us to get as much information out of them Like you just heard it, 17,000 truck rolls. So not only is he the leader in Australia, he's the worldwide leader. And so it's going to add so much value to Omnidian to work this closely with Peter and his team.
No surprises that we lead the world again.
I'm not surprised at those numbers. I'm surprised that you can hit those sort of truck rolls, agreed, because that's a massive amount of work. But when you look at the last 15 years in our industry, I would say a large number of the most major retailers we've seen who have taken massive market share have either folded, fallen over, and we've seen similar things with even some of the bigger brands of solar inverters and batteries and panels that they've come into the country and then they've moved out again. There's all these solar orphans everywhere. They're not all rescue operations. Some of them are opportunities to upgrade systems. Peter, how do you manage that part of the business?
Luke, to be honest with you, the installation is not our focus. It's more we will resort to an installation if that's the best outcome for the customer. We're focused on trying to get the customer resolution. We don't like selling installs. That's not our core business. Our core business has always been focused on service and maintenance. The problem is, who do you refer those installs onto? Whereas now Omnidian has a great service partner network that those installs could be passed on to be able to create installs.
And then the way we look at this, Luke, is we don't want to compete with the solar retailers. We don't want to do installs. We want to support them so they can do what they're good at and we can do what we're good at.
Makes sense. I'm really kind of curious, Peter. Can you drop any names of gear that you've seen that's particularly reliable or that doesn't feature in the servicing or stuff that turns up all day, every day?
Look, I hate to share details. That's why I keep in the shadows. But there is definitely some products that last longer than others, and I'm sure everyone's probably well aware of those brands. But you do get what you pay for.
And even more interesting to that, like back to the technology piece. So, we all get tied up into what's the detonation rate of a panel. And by us being able to leverage our technology and do the full circle where we actually fix it. So we identify the problem. This is what we believe it was. We then send out a truck, full loop, feeding our data models. I could tell you any panel maker that says that they have a 0.5% detonation rate, yeah, that's in the factory. That's not in the real world or in a testing lab. When you get into the real world, it's much different, and different panels perform much better or not as good.
So to loop back to what you were saying before around when you come out to a site and you find that there has been like an opportunity for some remedial work, I'm really pleased to hear that. We feel a little bit like there's a lot of businesses out there who feel like it's not worth replacing a panel. It's not worth replacing a DC isolator to get a system going again. They just want to start from scratch kind of thing because that's where they think the money is. How do you guys go in terms of like sustainably doing repair work?
Look, that's a great question. Repair work's always a challenge, and the challenge comes down to trying to find the right products and the right outcome. But what we want to try and do is minimise the cost for the consumer so they then have a product that lasts a lot longer without having to reinvest a whole lot of money into a new system when the original system should have lasted for the 20, 25 years of the panels on the roof. So it's all about trying to justify that investment to the customer to fix the faulty panel or to fix the inverter versus replacement. And I'm a firm believer in keeping product out of landfill. If we've got panels on a roof that can last longer, I'd rather an installer sell that customer an additional system, but we keep the other system operating. That's how we're going to get the best out of renewables, not ripping it off a roof and throwing it in the tip.
And do you feel like, that sometimes you're rocking up to site and finding out that, a string of panels was just never plugged in to begin with?
I've got a lot of stories I could tell you around that. So we started doing service and maintenance in 2012, 2014. So I've been doing it. We've been to over 100,000 sites. So I've got a lot of data on all those sorts of issues. I could do a whole podcast around the issues we've seen over the years. Yeah, it's a very, very common occurrence. Or systems that haven't been turned on or terminated the main switch.
And this is actually kind of where it starts to actually become, changing, like how we propel the industry forward. So first off, we started the company with the notion of, how do you accelerate investments in clean energy? And the only way you do that is by protecting the investments that people have made. So, one of the things that really, as you think about the sustainability, Jess, and I love that question, is how you get ahead of that is actually what you do at the beginning. And so as part of Omnidian's offer, we do what's called a performance verification test on every system that's installed that we manage. And so, what does that mean? It means we're looking at a few pieces of data. One, we take, here's the system metadata, so tilt, azimuth, et cetera. Here's the equipment that is. And so we build a digital twin. And then two, we actually ingest the actual production data. And within that production data, there are performance anomalies potentially that you could go ahead and see. And then lastly, what is the client, consumer, individual who has acquired the system, what do they expect the performance to be? So when you put all those three things together, we manage the system for the first 30 days or monitor it, understand if there's any issues. And if there are, you actually fix it quickly. But, one of the most fascinating things, if you think about with the penetration of storage, this data point is from the US, but there is a material, say sometimes over 40, 50% of all solar systems that have been installed with storage have an issue with simply the wires being crossed, right? And we could see that within the performance.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
It blows my mind. It doesn't surprise me, but it blows my mind. I love this stuff because performance monitoring, as you know, Ray, was kind of, my bread and butter for many, many years with solar analytics. And I love what performance data can tell you. I mean, being able to detect faults quickly saves everyone money. But the piece of the puzzle that was missing was that if it just created noise, then you'd get customers panicking, you'd get retailers spending time going, I don't know why your system's not working properly, I'll have a look, and they faff around in the data and try and understand, and they've got to do a truck roll and blah, 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 and it's all cost. Where you're coming in is going, I'm going to streamline that, I'm going to make that easy, I'm going to handle it all for you, I'm going to do all the performance monitoring stuff, and I'm going to solve it. I'm going to go fix it. That's the key that's been missing. Am I right?
Niall, can I hire you as my sales manager for Australia?
We get job offers all the time.
Oh, it happens all the time on this show.
You can't manage what you can't measure. In God we trust. Everybody else needs to bring the data.
But Ray, what you're saying is it's not only a benefit to doing the after service care, a year down the line, the 5 years down the line, but it's also quality insurance on the installation. And especially for people who are either trying to manage in-house teams or manage subcontractors, you're not having to worry about a customer coming back to you in 2 weeks because you're going to know pretty immediately if things are working how they should.
Well, even more so, it's the owner of the solar retailer who actually just really loves our service because it gives him that extra QA process, especially when they're going out to third party or they're subbing it. And I'm able to say, yes, this is working, or no, it's not. Again, this is about a brand game for them. The better their brand is, the more that they're going to sell. And if I can help them with that problem up front, it solves a lot of problems.
It also brings some accountability if you're using subbies for your installs too. So that's excellent. I want to throw a question to Peter. I want to make a statement first. Australia is bloody huge. It's a big country. And I know that these solar companies, volume players, they have cricketers on their ads. They sell very cheap systems. I know that they target regional areas. So I know they do campaigns. In fact, one of the largest ones has been banned from selling solar in the Northern Territory and in the north of WA because they deliberately targeted Indigenous communities who didn't have the ability to pay. Would they have any intention of servicing and looking after those systems in the future? I don't think so. Making a statement there that we know that Australia is huge. There's lots of regional centres. How big is your reach around the country?
Luke, it's a great question. We've been to islands off the north of Cairns, off the east coast of Australia. We've been to islands off Tasmania. We've been to islands off South Australia, and we visit all of WA. So we have been to every part of Australia. Well, it's pretty hard to say every part, but a large percentage of Australia we've been and serviced.
Sounds expensive, Peter.
Look, it is, but that's what the manufacturers have to do because they have that requirement to service where they sell. And, it's about trying to look after consumers. So every consumer has a right to be able to make sure their products are covered under warranty and that warranty is delivered for them. And we're the ones that help facilitate that.
Does that mean that you'll service every brand, no matter what your clients are selling? Or do you have a bit of a list of, things that you don't want to touch or things that you encourage
give
people
us the
to
list.
use?
Give us the list. What won't you touch?
Look, I already asked this question.
And I'll try and dodge the question again without naming brands on the podcast. We always work with all manufacturers as long as they're prepared to pay what it costs to do the job properly, safely, and efficiently. If they're trying to cut the costs and not pay an electrician what it costs to do a job, we can't work with them because we need to deliver a safe, quality product for the end consumers.
That sounds
Good
fair.
answer.
That's been a constant problem for industry, though, getting paid appropriately from inverter manufacturers for swaps. And obviously, if you're doing it all the time, there's a level of efficiency there that you can achieve that potentially they can't. So the cost of delivering that service for the manufacturer might actually, well, probably will end up more economical for them.
There is that efficiency, so it is an efficiency game, but we're also ISO accredited, and we want to look after safety, quality, and environment, and we deliver that service as well. So we can deliver a quality product at an efficient rate, and that's what's appealing to the manufacturers.
Peter, it sounds a lot like you need to buy a fleet of electric Mercedes Vitos that I hear are being almost given away because no one wants to buy them. But for the service business, it'd probably be perfect.
Look, I've looked at them. They're good around the city, but when you've got to do a few Ks to get out to some regional remote sites, I'm not sure they've got the mileage we need.
Something for the future, the electric future.
Correct.
Very good. Now, I'd like to put a question back to Ray now. You have a platform that's able to manage remote O&M diagnosis and a whole bunch of other cool features to add some value for your customers and their customers. How hard is it? What are some of the biggest challenges of integrating all these different solutions? Let's use inverter manufacturers onto the one platform.
So my head of engineering, he'd probably first take me out of the knees for the answer I'm about to give. So I'll give that caveat because I'm going to really oversimplify the answer, right? So initially it's right. So by the way, my head of engineering, he worked for 10 years at Microsoft, 10 years at Amazon and a few other places. But, essentially you got to create a data acquisition engine that could take all these different pieces of data from the different systems, right? So as you do that, but then as we go through that, as you identify an issue, we've made our platform or horizontal effectively. And so for every issue that we find, we effectively set up another box to say, okay, here's the problem. This is your job. This is what you're supposed to look for. And every time you find a new issue, you go ahead and add another box. And every time you have to correlate those two together, you add another box to do that math, right? And so as long as you have the design that looks like that goes horizontal, it made actually an easy extension. As I mentioned, we started off in PV. Well, we just used that exact same framework to add storage. And as we're looking to add EV, it's the exact same framework, right? So again, it's ingesting the data, understanding the problem that you're looking for, the issue that you're looking for, and then based upon the issue gets the resolution. But one of the really neat things, how you drive efficiency. Non-coms obviously is one of the biggest issues for systems, right? How do you know a system's performing? And so what we do as we take it in, we identify the system's no longer generating energy. We'll then go ahead, we have an automated email that goes to a customer. And because we've taken the information of what that system looks like up front, we'll then go to the customer and say, okay, you need to go ahead and reset your router or reset your inverter, right? And we'll include instructions with that. And, because we're sending to them, we want to monitor, do they open it? If they don't open it, we'll send it again. And if they don't open it, we'll send it again. But let's say they do open it. And guess what? Their system is producing the next day. We then send them a follow-up email saying, hey, thank you for participating in the energy transition. Your system's working again. The number of 5-star reviews that we've had from customers that we've never touched. And then if you go back, if you think about it for an OEM, now you have a situation where you're able to use technology to go ahead and solve a problem without actually ever rolling a truck. It's a win-win for everybody.
You're out of business now, Peter.
Oh, no, we still need to roll a truck at times. There are other problems that need a truck roll.
This is probably for both of you. We really haven't seen the level of complexity at actually determining that a system is or isn't working as we've got right now. So because of CSIP and the network operators being able to reach in and turn down our solar system, it makes it a lot harder for an operator to give a customer an estimate for yield. It started out with grid voltage issues, the inverters would drop out. Sorry, not our fault, it's a grid problem. And over the years, it's a requirement from the Clean Energy Council to provide a yield estimate. But that gets harder and harder the more external influences are happening in these solar systems. So to have the software in the background to make those decisions is going to be a big thing for the industry.
Karl, can I hire you as my spokesperson?
Of course.
I got Nigel is my head of sales now, and Karl, you're going to be my spokesperson.
You don't want to go down this hole, Ray. Trust me. I'll fucking brief you on what a disaster it is to try and predict performance when you've got Victorian DNSPs who just randomly decide to turn systems on or off or up or down at their complete discretion with no warning and no reason. But we won't go there. So, Peter, I want to throw something in here because I just want to clarify something perhaps for all our listeners. So you guys are Solar Service guys.
Yes.
There's another company out there called Solar Service Group who are infamous in the industry for letterbox drops around battery trials and various other things and spooking people. That's not you, right?
100% that's not us. Yeah, we registered the name in 2012 and these guys popped up after us about 2 years later. Yeah. And I've had hate mail and stuff ever since then, and customers calling us to work out who these people are. 100% that's not us.
Yeah,
completely
excellent.
Different organisation.
I just want to clear that up for the listeners because your names are similar. You've obviously had some challenges with it in the past, and you guys are, you've built your business model around service and support for solar system operators, which is quite different from the other thing.
We're true advocates for the industry. So we're here to look after the end consumer and make sure they've got support mechanisms, whereas Solar Service Group are really around trying to sell battery packages, and I'm not sure where they're at these days, to be honest with you.
The first company Luke and I worked for was Energy Matters, and they didn't want to have anything to do with the service business whatsoever. They couldn't get away from it fast enough. They said, don't worry, there will be people that jump into this space and specialise in it, and that's you, Peter.
It was, yeah. We were one of the first ones, and I probably spent too long trying to educate the market on it, but the market's turned around and finally understands the importance of it now, especially the manufacturers as well.
Especially the whole industry, because it's reflective of all of us. We have a collective reputation to carry. It's not me versus this company over there. It's all of us versus the anti-solar people. I'm looking at you, Peter Dutton. Our future isn't more fossil fuels. The transition is happening, but we do cop a bad rap because of some of these bad operators and your Daily Mail type, tabloidy type media. Even the ABC love to pick up the odd story which is going to built into the solar industry about substandard installs, orphaned customers and everything else. So I think it's a great service to be going right, lifting up the reputation of the industry so that consumers have confidence to deal with all of us, not just one of us.
That's 100% spot on, Luke.
That's what Ray said in the first opening statement, I reckon.
There you go. I'm learning, Karl. See, while you've been reviewing your new employment contract from Ray, I've been trying to just follow the conversation.
Got you there, Karl.
You too, Nigel. All right. So
when are Luke and I's job offers coming in? What do we get to do?
You need to lift your game, Jess. Lift your game. That's what
haven't
it
been
is.
able to get a bloody word in today.
For the listeners' benefit, Jess is actually sitting in a car park at Parklea Markets, I reckon it is, somewhere.
So, Ray, for those OEMs and retailers who have heard about Omnidian, who are looking into this, who are saying, I've had enough of managing after sales and service, it's a big weight on our business, it's a big liability on our business, we're looking to streamline it and do something. What would you say regarding your services, and what pitch would you give them to seriously consider partnering with Omnidian?
Where we started off.
I'm looking for a job offer, by the way, Ray. So
I knew that was coming.
As we started off, the part about introducing, the Omnidian acquisition partnership with, SSG, one of the things if you kind of think about from an OEM, their first place of pain is I need someone to go replace this. I need someone to go do the warranty management or whatever occurs. And now, though, as you think about the combination of Omnidian and SSG, that then I'm allowed to do technology. So that's the piece that SSG couldn't deliver. I now have the technology to go ahead and identify the issue. And then if we need to leverage a truck, we now have the expanded Omnidian arm out of SSG to go ahead and roll the truck. So we are your one-stop shop. Level 1, level 2, level 3, as you want to go ahead and leverage.
Really changes the game up compared to what it was previously now. So we get to take the industry to the next level service.
And Peter, maybe I'm going to put you on the spot, Peter, because we've started this dialogue over a year ago, Peter and I, And then our GM, Omnidian's GM of Australia, who's David Pathak. Peter and David have been doing some joint calling on some OEMs. And maybe you just want to give a little sound bites from what they have said from the meetings together.
The appetite for the OEMs to have a one-stop shop is definitely there. So we deal with OEMs currently, and David deals with OEMs, but the opportunity now is to give them the full end-to-end solution, which is exactly where we're going. So there's a lot of excitement in the industry about what we're about to deliver, and I think it's just going to make it better for the overall end customer. And everything I do is about delivering a good service for the end customer. So that'll then deliver a better outcome for all the retailers and the solar industry as a whole.
That's kind of the fun thing for us. If you look at both SSG and Omnidian, and you look at the number of 5-star reviews that we both have, who else in the industry could actually say that? So what you're doing is you're bringing together two of the best companies focused on the end customer experience. That's how we're going to grow solar, is everyone being excited by the experience. Two of the best companies come together for that.
Peter,
Yes.
I just came across a bill for a service of my company work vehicle on my desk, and I've got to do 3, maybe 4 of these a year, and it's $721. And of course, people look at their solar system and think that it's zero maintenance for its lifetime. Obviously, it's not. It's something that's important for people to think about servicing their solar system as well as servicing other things like we do with our cars.
Karl, you're on the money, and it's something I've been advocate for a long time. I've got in front of Electrical Safety Office in Queensland and promoted it from the bleachers wherever I can. I think the industry's been a little bit misleading in the early days and said it's set and forget. I've really been an advocate to say, look, if fixing it before it fails, preventative maintenance is far better than having an isolator catch fire on your roof. But now having technology to be able to pick up the faults before they completely fail gives you an ability to be able to start to fix issues before fires and earth faults occur that blow up inverters like we spoke about earlier on.
I just want to throw in a reminder here that we're really excited to be heading to the Smart Energy Expo on the 9th and 10th of April. There's going to be a gala dinner and awards night. We're going to be doing an episode of the podcast from the stage. Very, very excited to get down there. So if you haven't booked your tickets, now's the time to do it. Make sure you go to smartenergyexpo.org.au to get those tickets. So at this point, it's been great to hear about Omnidian and Solar Service Guys, your partnership, and there's been a fair amount of information. Normally, before we wrap it up, we have a whip around to everyone, and everyone can have any last comments. And I'm going to start with you, Karl.
Yeah, absolutely. So yesterday in Melbourne was an absolutely perfect day, and my solar system made 25% less than what it does on the absolutely best day of the year. And we're only in the first week of March. So for those people who think that sizing a solar system is something that we do for summer only happens for a very brief period of the year, and the rest of the time our yields are a lot less. So go big.
Last comments, Jess.
I'm filled with a lot of hope from this conversation. It's something that our business is really passionate about as well, the after sales support and service, and we know how much of a toll it can be on an individual business. So yeah, really great to see that there's such great solutions out there. And to your point there, Luke, I think it was Andy McCarthy who said that it should be co-opetition, not competition, and could not agree more. We should be all lifting each other up.
Interestingly, I think Andy is an advisory board member of Omnidian in Australia. After doing a little bit of stalking, I saw that Keisha Naronjo's on there as well.
Yeah,
and as you said, David and Warwick Johnston. And I'm like, wow, okay. So you guys have got some local heavy hitters to inform what you're doing here. That says a whole lot about the direction you're looking to take in Australia.
Actually, thank you so much for bringing them up, Luke, and apologies to them for not actually recognizing them up front. They saw the power to what we can deliver in the market, and they were all in on saying, what can we do to help expand? And so they actually really helped us in the first 2 years of growth. It's been phenomenal, and looking for their ongoing support. But yeah, they see the opportunity that we're delivering to the market as well, that's saying it's a gap here in Australia. Even though you guys are as advanced as you are, no one was really leveraging technology to support performance.
Nigel, last comments?
Yeah, I just second it. I wish you guys the best of luck. It's great that you've got Pete on board with his team and all that service experience. I think this has been a gap and a challenge for the whole industry for many years, finding a way to monetize it, whether it's outsourcing it or whether it's building your own business like Pete's done. Doesn't matter. Get it done, get service and get O&M as part of the equation because guess what's coming at you? I'd say that. And then, as I did last week, actually, I saved my gunpowder. I kept my gunpowder dry till right at the end of last episode. Going to do the same again this time because I don't have breaking news about another industry.
Should I get the timer started, Nige?
No, it's going to be quick. Shut up, Jess. I'm going to India as part of an Austrade delegation to look at a 10 million rooftop solar target that they've got. They've already done 100 gigawatts of rooftop solar. They want it to be 500 gigawatts within a few years. Wow. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to do it. I'm getting on a plane. I'm probably going to miss the next ep because I'll be on a plane somewhere. So wish me luck.
I saw that gig advertised, Nigel. I thought they were asking for professionals.
Hey, let me bring this back to what's
somehow
really
I slipped in.
You now are going to be heading sales for us in Australia. Well, if you're going to India and you have all that, I want to see a signed contract when you come back. Let's get this done.
Omnidian India, here we come.
Peter Matthew from Solar Service Guys, thanks for coming on board. Do you have any last thoughts for us?
Look, no last thoughts other than looking forward to being able to deliver a great product for the industry. You know, the new technology you get to build, it's not new, but the partnership enables us to bring it to more clients and really expand out this service and lift the industry overall. So looking forward to it.
Ray Szylko from Omnidian, thank you for coming on. Do you have any last comments or thoughts?
Again, I just really look at this as the opportunity of 1 + 1 gives 3. Taking our technology, leveraging on the expertise that Peter has built in field service. You know, not only are we going to take that knowledge here within Australia, but we're looking to take that knowledge back to us in the US and then as we expand into Europe. So with that, I actually want to really thank Peter today. It's been a momentous day as we closed on everything. So here we go.
Thanks again for coming on, Ray and Peter, and thanks to you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and like. We hope to see you at the Smart Energy Expo, and you can come and see us do the show live, and just look forward to catching up with all the industry legends there, and we'll catch you next time.